Okay, so this is kind of like probably the most important part of this workshop, where we can get to kind of hear from everybody who is able to attend them. So the primary focus is going to be discussion, but there's also, if you started the text code or if you pulled up that website that we sent in the chat, we'll be able to create a word cloud like this one. And again, that's this code here, or the link that's up below. And if you texted that code, you get like a series of messages kind of like this. And after you get that confirmation, you're good to submit an answer. And these questions are going to show up on the screen in just a second, if that makes sense to everybody. If it doesn't, just say so and we can like clear up anything. Okay. So our first question, and again, feel free to unmute your mic and to just, call out what you want to talk about, but we want to ask folks what they see as strengths in their neighborhood. And again, if anyone wants to make comments on these, please feel free to talk about your responses. So we have community, we have that it's quiet and affordable, that there's potential, diversity, people like their neighbors, which is good. If those are all the points that we have right now, and I can move on to the next one. Again, if I can. This next question is, what challenges do you see in your neighborhood? What are areas that could be improved? And again, please feel free to comment. So the time to talk through things. I should note that I know you can text one-word responses, but if it's more than one word, then it gets split up in the word cloud. And a lot of these points that people bring up, that's going to help us know not only what to design for the long term, but as we talk about capacity building, trying to get some community events like litter pickup or sidewalk repair. I see cats in there. When Liz and I were doing the property survey, we noticed a lot of stray cats, and so we wondered if like a catch and release program might be of interest to anybody.
I am curious, abandoned seems to be the biggest word that comes up. Can people who responded elaborate, like, are there abandoned houses, abandoned lots, like what specifically?
I actually wrote that word, and there are quite a few abandoned houses in this area, along with cats. So there you go.
Is the abandoned buildings along Main and Star also an issue?
I would say they are. I think what we're starting to see is a lot of these houses are owned. They're becoming mostly rentals, and you can look and see that most of those are owned by, many of them are owned by the same people. And so they're not cleaning them up, they're not taking care of them. And when the renters move out, it sits there. I mean, there's trash on the streets, people are evicted, that stuff just sits there for days and sometimes weeks. My husband and I have called many times about buildings, the old Prangs Island Variety Store, which was on the corner of Elgin and Mott Street, sat abandoned for 15 years. And we called and called and called, and they finally tore it down and left the big hole where the basement was for a year. So every week we were calling, my husband was calling and complaining, and they finally came and somewhat filled it in. Now the neighbors are using that as a parking lot. So.
I had a question. Do people see crime as an issue? And when we did surveys, we noticed there a lot of chain link fences and a lot of signs, beware of dog. It's kind of an indicator that there's a concern of crime.
So outside of myself, who else on here lives in Garfield? Is it just
I live on Maryland. I live on Maryland, and yeah, and I don't think the crime here is bad at all, really. I really don't.
Okay.
No, I would say that I don't see it. I'm on Cutter Street off of Dearborn. It's a 1-block street. I also lived on Mott and Elgin, and I would say that's where I grew up, was there, and then moved here. I would say crime isn't an issue. Do we have it once in a while? Sure, like any other neighborhood. Right. But we do have, I mean, I can go through and point out a few drug houses that I feel like we kind of continually overlook it, and you know, things like that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think our biggest problem in our neighborhood right now is, like you said, the abandoned houses, and just when people get evicted, that stuff just sits out there, and it's such an eyesore. I think that like landlords should be held more responsible for getting rid of that stuff immediately, not letting it sit there forever.
Great discussion. You want to move to the next?
Yep. Okay. So this next question is, what programs and opportunities do you think you and your neighbors would benefit from the most?
I'm not sure if I understand programs and opportunities. What do you mean by programs?
It could be like a type of social service. It could be
financial incentives. Could be just capital
types of businesses.
Any kind of improvements that you feel might be needed to deal with the problems?
Well, from my perspective, as I mentioned earlier, I live on a very small street. It's 12 to 14 houses. Most of the neighbors have been here 20 plus years. The ones that are newer, our renters. We do have, I think, 4 rental properties on the street now, but the longtime neighbors kind of hold those people to a standard. And if they really don't like it, they end up leaving. They move out fairly quickly, and those who stay are happy because we do kind of keep everything cleaned up here and things like that. So, I mean, I'm not very familiar with programs. Quite honestly, it's not something I'm familiar with, so.
Nicole, is 4 rentals, is that an increase from 2-3 years ago?
I would say it started about 8 years ago.
8 years ago. Okay.
Yeah, but we have one family that's been here probably 20 years. We have the apartment, I have the apartment right next door to me. So that's always been an apartment. But when I moved here, we had the same renter for 30 years. He moved out, and in the last 6 years, we've had different renters. But like I said, my husband and I are pretty much on top of it. And we will call the landlord day and night. And so, you know, he now has some good people there, and things have been pretty quiet. The other part for me is too, I live remotely for 6 months, and I move back here every winter to be closer to work, and I commute during the summertime. So I will tell you, when you asked about crime, my house is here. I've not had any issues. I do have cameras up. I do know everybody on our street. They all know that this is what I do. So I've not had any issues doing that with crime.
Right. We've never had a crime. We haven't had any crime.
I would personally like to see more of what's happening down at the Bag of Nails and the park and things like that to happen and happen sooner. I'm in the process of thinking, do I want to move or do I want to stay? And if I see things changing down there, I mean, I was excited to come home and see what's going on. And I personally believe that if we can start getting more of those things or do something with Main Street, you're going to get people to stay, and people are going to take more pride in the houses and clean them up, and it's going to be less rentals and people want to buy.
What would you like to see happen along Main Street?
Maybe some little shops, maybe a salon, maybe a nail place.
Mhm.
You know, when I have to drive to Perrysburg to get my nails done, it's a little ridiculous. And we have none of that here. We have nothing. And quite honestly, I'm not sure that, number one, we would advertise to the right people to keep it going, if that makes any sense.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Katie, from your perspective, you know, being younger, is there anything that you would like to see more in the Garfield neighborhood that you don't currently have? Because this question also kind of covers that as well. Bev, you're muted. I don't know if.
Are we still muted?
No, you're good.
You're good.
Okay, I don't know why I did that. That was weird.
I know me and my friends hang out at the park a lot, and like we kind of want a lot of like picnic benches and stuff.
Okay.
Swings.
Yes, we need more swings because we like to swing a lot. And we like to play football down in that little, I don't know what to call it.
The hollow.
Yeah, the hollow. We play football down there, and sometimes it's really, really muddy because there's like a lot of dirt and like tire tracks sometimes because people go down there and drive in it. But that's about it.
Katie, are there any businesses or stores or services you'd like to see on Main Street?
Yes, I'm with the nail shop because I like to do nails and hair. The nails and hair salons. We could get thrift stores. I like thrift stores. Like a little thrift store down on Main Street would be nice.
I mean, I would think that there's opportunities for some mom and pop restaurants. The old Bag of Nails is jam-packed every night. I usually go there 2 times a week, and it's packed. People are really enjoying that. So I don't, you know, it would be helpful if we could kind of build off of that and take it down Main Street.
Mhm.
I'd like to see something like you have downtown where Kango's is, or the Home Slice Pizza, Tony Paco's, that one little street right there, there's an art gallery. And I'm not saying it has to be an art gallery, but why can't it be? And why not some of those littler kind of niche kind of restaurants right there on Main Street?
What about access to the water? Interest in water activities in the river, out of curiosity?
Well, for me, there would be, and I know the Bag of Nails is indicating that they're planning on adding docks in there next season. So, you know, that's one of the reasons I live away in the summer is I have a boat out on the lake, but having that opportunity here would be something that would be interesting to me. And actually, I know a lot of people in the neighborhood, and there are folks here that have those kind of have those things,
Sure.
but we've never been able to do that right here in our own neighborhood.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That's great. Molly, do you want to move on to the next question?
Okay, so if you were to give a new neighbor a tour of the best places in Garfield, where would you take them?
I think the Way High School Stadium's a pretty unique and very cool place to see. The high school itself. And obviously the new waterfront is really coming along, so that would be somewhere I would take people. Michael's Cafe is a little hidden gem.
Sure. Did we have anything that we wanted to add to that as a group or discuss on? Okay.
I see Katie thinking. I'm just going to keep putting you on the spot, Katie.
Okay. So this next question, and we've kind of talked about this already about, you know, what we want to see or what types of developments we want to see, but, you know, if you could sum up a perfect vision of Garfield in 5 years, what would that be? What would that include? Would probably be like your one-word responses.
And let's assume there's unlimited money, nothing holding you back.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the kind of dream vision board
Mhm.
moving forward.
I would like this neighborhood to be a village to the Marina District. I would like to see the value in these homes come up. I'd like to see people buy them, refurbish them, make them more of a cottage kind of villagey type of feel. Everything's walkable. You have a little community grocery store, restaurants, shopping. You know, and I'm not saying high-end shopping, I'm saying the basics.
So when you say village, you're really talking about that walkability and kind of that. Okay, that's what I assumed. Perfect.
some more green space throughout the neighborhood.
Do we want to add anything? Okay.
I had a
So-
question for the residents. If you or your neighbors sought financing to fix up your home or to buy a home in a neighborhood, are the banks lending in Garfield? Is there an issue with getting private financing to either buy a house in Garfield or to fix up your house? Do you have anybody have a reading on that?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I would assume if you have the credit and the equity, you could go and buy a house.
Okay.
As far as taking a loan to fix up my house, I mean, I did that many years ago, which
Okay.
is part of the reason I'm on here tonight. Because the question is, you know, we kind of want to move, but I kind of don't want to move, but I'm never going to get my money out of this house. And I don't mind not getting it out. But then again, I really do enjoy living this close to everything.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, you know, in the summertime, I'm driving in town 45 minutes to go to work, which is why I come home for the winter, because then I'm driving 5 minutes. So, you know, if this neighborhood, if this could all really happen and it really came to fruition, I wouldn't want to move.
I think it can happen.
Yeah. Now my daughter bought the house across the street from me 3 years ago, 3 years ago, and she did not have any trouble getting that at all. And now
That's-
my
that's
son
good to
rents it.
know.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Okay. Are we good to move on? Do you think?
I think so.
All right. So, you know, you can stay updated on our process and give more feedback as we, you know, push this further or find out like when the next meetings are. You know, we have Instagram, Facebook, we have a YouTube page, we have a website, like anything you can ask for to just know what's going on. And I think Liz will put the links to those in the chat. These next 3 workshops that we're hosting are going to be structured just like this one. So, you know, tell your neighbors that these are going on. Like, we'd love to hear from as many people as possible, and to then develop some focus groups in these things that people are talking about, to keep the conversation going and keep people involved. And if you wanted, oh, good.
Well, I guess I want to build on that, Molly. I guess Nicole and Katie, I mean, you're guinea pigs here tonight, and your input has been fabulous. But what we really wanted was 10 Katies and 10 Nicoles. So do you have?
I have a whole group of friends that I can try to get to come to one.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
That would be absolutely wonderful.
Your next
I
one.
guess-
And her mom.
Yeah, and my mom. And my mom.
And I guess, are there things that we could do to help you put that message out, Katie, and especially Nicole also? Are there ways that we could that you are aware of, or you could advise us?
I can pretty much text all of my friends. I can put them in one group chat and text them all.
That'd be super. That would be super.
I will tell you that I didn't even know this project was going on until there was a flyer put on my door. And that's exactly how I found out about this. I opened the, I don't even know what was happening. The dogs started barking. I went out, opened the door, and there's a flyer.
That might have been
So-
me. I'm sorry.
But I would not have known that this was happening at all without that flyer. So I don't know if, you know, there's a way, I mean, quite honestly, you know, you could do, I know you said you have a Facebook page, and you can go out on a business Facebook page and pay $5 or $10 to do a mass to contact people. And I think you can actually put in like what area you're trying to do. I do this all the time for a small business my husband and I have. And I pick the locations. I don't know if you can do it by zip code, but I know you can do it by Toledo.
These are all my doodles.
So I would say to you, outside of me walking down the street and telling my neighbors, I'm happy to do that. But, you know, going over to 2 or 3 streets over, I'm not sure I'm going to be doing that in the next few days with work and all that stuff. But I do think I'll just print out. So are you planning on doing the flyers again in the doors, or what are you guys thinking?
Yeah, that's a really good, oh, go ahead, Molly.
I was just gonna say, I mean, we are sending out postcards, or they are in the mail currently, right? That are going out to like all homeowners, pretty sure, or property owners, even the ones that live in California. But you know, so we're doing that. We've talked about more flyering events. You know, that was our first time, you know, like a lot of this has kind of started the past couple of months as far as like resident outreach. But I've seen the way that you can use Facebook to kind of target audiences, and it's something to consider, definitely.
Yeah, it's very inexpensive. I mean, I think that I've paid at most $10, and I've reached about 700 people. So if you could do it by zip code, that would be the easiest way to do it. We used to have the Metro Press. I haven't seen that delivered in months. I don't know if it's still in the area. If it is, you know, putting something there would be helpful, but I have not seen that in a while. I don't know if it's just because they don't have somebody to deliver it to my street anymore, or what the situation is.
I haven't seen that on our street either.
Yeah, so it could be the whole area. So you might want to contact the Metro and ask them. And I know they might be able to do that for you for no cost due to the conversation.
Beverly and Nicole, would the Toledo Blade be a possibility? Would that be, if we could get something in the Blade, is that possible?
Honestly, most of the people I know that live in this neighborhood, I don't even think they get the Blade.
Okay, that's not surprising, but
I thought everybody got it every Sunday.
No.
I see it up and down my street every Sunday at all the houses. So, and I know nobody's paying. They just come.
Seriously? Yeah, I haven't seen a paper on our street in forever.
Oh, Nicole, what you're thinking of is it's that blue advertisement.
No, we actually get the Blade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
Yeah, this whole street, they come out on Sundays. Because
And-
I'm usually picking them up at some of my neighbors' houses.
Matt, you put in the chat box that you had an idea. Can you share that, please?
Yeah, it's not that different than Nicole has contributed. That's an excellent idea. We targeted this neighborhood and similar in zip codes in the area from both the Metro Parks image campaign as well as the levy campaign. So she's spot on. It is inexpensive and it's really targeted. And it's really approachable. I'll send the document over to someone, if not this evening, tomorrow morning, and get you in contact with the people who executed that. It's remarkably effective, and it's really inexpensive.
The only thing I would say I would warn against is, like, on my street, we have several seniors. Telling them it's Zoom on a computer might scare them, so that if they know that they can call in and just talk on their cell phone, you might get more participation.
Yep.
Is there a social media site that a lot of folks in that area are plugged into or watch?
Facebook has been the tried and true
Right.
place for us at this capacity.
Right.
Yeah, I think we were seeing that because a lot of the things, because East Toledo Family Center is involved, they have a really big following. So that's what we were trying to use to also get more attention on Facebook. So the targeted ads, that's a good idea because we hadn't done that before and didn't realize how inexpensive it was. So that's really good to know. And I just typed in my email to Matt and Nicole and others. If you guys have ideas or if you want to stay in contact, please feel free to reach out. But it's good to know that you got the information from the flyer because I was going to ask, you know, how you learned about this. So that's good to know. I think the other thing that I think Molly was going to mention was the fact that these surveys, you know, Katie, for the benefit of friends and, you know, targeting potentially the younger population, will be making a survey available online. So if you don't have time to sit through a whole meeting, and this could potentially work for older people as well, or really just anybody who doesn't have time to sit through a whole meeting, they can fill out the survey kind of at their own leisure about the same kind of questions we asked tonight. So we'll be making that as an option as well.
And we do have a link to that that Liz can also enter in the chat. Which, if we're done talking about this part of, you know, trying to do outreach, there is one more kind of like a closeout survey that is through the Zoom call. It's just 4 questions. I am logged in from another device. Technical difficulties, I guess. We do have the last link that Liz just sent is to the survey. It includes discussion questions, which, you know, since, you know, we've kind of written down what you've talked about, you don't have to write those again, but there's a third section that just asks like what's the best way to get a hold of you, and like what connections you have in the neighborhood, and also like what volunteer opportunities you'd be interested in. Yeah, that's supposed to be through Zoom, but I think because we have three people in the same account, and for whatever reason Zoom doesn't like that.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, Molly, because it's giving me the same error message. That's okay.
Now we know.
What were the questions, though? Remind me. And maybe we can just kind of open it up for discussion as a brief kind of discussion to close out.
Written down. So there were 3 different, or maybe 4 different volunteer ideas we had, and then would take suggestions from folks of, we know that there's going to be a global youth service day in April. That I think Jody mentioned. There's also, we've discussed doing another neighborhood litter pickup. We were wondering how interested people would be doing like sidewalk repair, because like we noticed that when we were doing property surveys of just like how many, you know, spots like a sidewalk is like taken over by grass or something like that. Or maybe people would be interested in doing something like a food drive, you know, for like COVID relief, things of that nature. Ways to kind of like build a more like a Garfield central group, things that people can come together for.
So does anybody have ideas or think that, you know, one of those ideas that Molly listed would be good and they'd be interested in joining in something like that?
We just did that cleanup, what, 2 months ago, and we got, what, 1 ton of junk out of this neighborhood. I mean, it was ridiculous, the pile of stuff that we got going down Front Street, down all the alleys, just cleaning that up. I mean, I think we just need to do more of that. It's like one cleanup doesn't, you just got to keep doing. And I think if our neighbors start seeing that things are picked up and cleaned up, it's catchy.
You can just dump it at the park. We'll get it.
Do what now?
Just dump it at the park. We'll get it for you.
Okay. Don't say that too loud. You might have a lot of stuff at your park.
Yeah, I agree, Bev. I think that was a really great initiative. And I know that you guys do that, you know, every once in a while.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate because this last year with COVID, you know, people are a little leery about picking up somebody's garbage or what they've drank out of and, you know, that kind of stuff. So that's been a little tough.
I definitely like the food drive idea.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting, you know, as COVID persists, just building off of everything that we can and trying to move forward, but also still engaging people. Because I think that is part of the reason why this was a harder workshop too, because we couldn't meet in person. We would normally do this type of meeting in person, so.
Right. And the East Side is, I mean, we're just a great group of people over here. I mean, over the weekend, the Avengers Motorcycle Club had 800 motorcycles that collected toys and stuff for the East Toledo Family Center. It was phenomenal. And then they worked it out with the East Toledo Junior Football League and Ape Hangers Saloon over there. And there was a Union Hall or something like that. Was it Teresa? I can't remember.
Yeah, Teamsters.
Teamsters, yeah. So I mean, when you put the call out that if you can get it out there correctly to the people, I mean, it's amazing how East Siders stick together.
What was another question, Molly?
We're trying to figure out like where people are coming from and just like what connections people have, like what local organizations are they involved in. If you are a parent, student, faculty at one of the schools, just stuff like that. Just kind of more building like our demographic knowledge of who we're working with. So like, I mean, I think the question about like volunteer opportunities is probably the only like discussion question that like the other ones are really just like filling in a bubble and saying that this is.
Okay. I think if there's no other comments, I can't remember. Molly, did we have a closeout question or they were just a part of those closeout things that you had on the poll?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing was like, what things would you want to see kind of more immediately? You know, like we're making this plan for like long-term goals, but you know, what are smaller service projects that we can look at this spring? And you know, really hoping that COVID might stabilize somewhat.
But with that, I think how we kind of want to close out this meeting is just, again, to encourage people to pass along the news that we are working on this plan. A good way to stay connected is to follow along our website. We'll have continual updates on there as well as the social media platforms. But we're really excited about this momentum, and we will make sure, I believe everybody registered through Eventbrite on here, but we will make sure to send out email updates as well of just what's happening in the process and, you know, when the next meetings are and how we can kind of continue to move this work forward. So I want to thank you all for being here. This was really great discussion. We had a small group today, but it was a really good discussion. So I appreciate you guys hanging in with us.
One last question, just, I'm sorry.
No,
Have
go
you
ahead.
thought about contacting Garfield School and see if they have a parent newsletter that you can put this in?
Oh, I hadn't thought about a newsletter, but we definitely thought about the school. That's like the big glaring gap that we currently have that we're trying to
Yes.
fix. And
Yes, they have.
there's a couple of people on the core planning team that have connections with the school. So it's just a matter of like utilizing them. But the newsletter is a really good point. That's great information.
I'm sure they have a newsletter or an email address.
That's, yeah. Great.
I wrote down that Katie said she's getting 10 more people to the next one, so I'm pretty excited about that.
She will.
I will try my best.
All right, great.
I know it's late, but when we're done, if the TDC people could stay on this call for like 5 minutes, that would be great, I think.
Okay.
Do that.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody,
appreciate
especially
it.
Nicole and Katie. That was great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.